What is going on, alpha males? Welcome, and hopefully welcome back to the Alpha Male Podcast. The podcast where we talk about what it means to be a man the right way, with God at the center, strong, dominant, and in control, made in the very image of God. We don't apologize for it. Going to try a different format today. Instead of putting the bio in, I'm going to kind of get into the main topic. I'll put the bio in at the end for people that want to hear it. By God's grace, I do believe we get new listeners all the time, but for people that hear it over and over again, it may get a bit redundant. So we'll try this out and see how it works. Feedback would be appreciated, and you can give feedback at goodshepherdtraining.com. What are we going to talk about today? Lessons learned in working out. Obviously, there was like gym class and whatnot, but I think I started working out seriously at age 14. Aside from competitive shooting, I do believe that wrestling was the first real sport I ever played besides, just like for fun baseball. But I'm talking, I was actually wanted to be competitive and really pushed in that sport. I think either that same year or maybe a year or two after, I started competitive weightlifting and started working out somewhere in there. So let's say between 14 and 16, something like 24 years I've been working out. And with very brief interruptions, as in during the war, I've been pretty much working out consistently ever since. Even during the war, you think it's all combat, but a lot of times there's lulls in between. So I remember during the war, on days when I didn't have to dig a foxhole, a fighting position, which is kind of a workout in itself with an e-tool, do push-ups or pull-ups on an armored vehicle or something like that. So even then I did what I could. But I've been working out for 20-something years, pretty consistently. I've learned some lessons in that. If you've listened for any length of time, you've probably listened to the lessons learned from the Marine Corps, lessons learned from law enforcement. This is a lessons learned from working out. I think there's some good life lessons in working out. Well, let's talk about one. Nobody's going to give you big muscles, right? Nobody's just going to hand them to you. You can't pay somebody to work out for you. It seems like in today's culture, click something on Amazon, it'll get sent to you. Somebody else will deliver it to you. Or pay somebody else to do your dirty work. And I'm all about delegation. That's not what I'm talking about. But you can't pay somebody else to work out for you. You could pay a personal trainer to give you some advice, to give you some tips, best practices, but you can't pay him to work out for you. You can't, no matter how much you pay that man, have him bench press for you and you get those muscles. If you want to be better at bench press, you have to do it. You have to put in the sweat and the pain and the time and the effort. You can't buy your way out of that. You can't buy your way into big muscles. It just doesn't work. And some things in life, to be honest, you can just buy your way out of or buy something. But not everything. You can buy a super fancy car, but that's not going to make you a good driver. You can buy a super fancy gun, but if you don't go to the range and practice with it, it really doesn't matter how fancy it is. That gun's not going to shoot itself. That gun is just a vessel. The skill is in you, or the lack of skill is on you. You can't pay somebody else to make you a good shooter. You have to put in the time and the effort and the reps. There's some things in life you just have to do on your own if you want to see the results. Another one is, just like a microcosm, our muscles grow bigger. We grow stronger when we push through adversity, when we push through resistance. Literal resistance in the form of weights, or resistance in life, spiritual battles, resistance. Whatever the resistance is, we grow stronger by going through that. It reminds me of a verse in Acts, confirming the souls of the disciples and exhorting them to continue in faith, and that we must, through much tribulation, enter the kingdom of God. Likewise, you'll find in Romans. And not only that, but we glory in tribulations, knowing that tribulation produces perseverance, and perseverance, character, and character, hope. Now hope does not disappoint, because the love of God has been poured out on our hearts by the Holy Spirit who was given to us. I say again, we glory in tribulation, knowing that tribulation produces perseverance, and perseverance, character, and character, hope. It's the struggle that makes you stronger in working out. It's the struggle. One of the inside jokes my wife and I have when we're working out, I'm like, man, weights are heavy. Yeah, they are heavy. It's hard. If it's not hard, you're not pushing yourself enough. It's supposed to be hard. That's how that works. The resistance, the pushing through that trial and tribulation, and that perseverance is what makes you stronger. Again, that's a microcosm. Doing that with your muscles will make you stronger physically. Doing that in life will make you a stronger man. Period. There are times, I will admit, that I go through spiritual deserts. There are peaks and there are valleys in life and in the Christian walk especially. The Christian walk is likened in the Bible to a race. It's not really as important what part of that race you're on. What's important is that you keep going, that you keep pushing, especially when it's hard. That's what makes you stronger. Another lesson. It's not the gear that makes you fit. That is merely a tool. Things can help. I've never had a personal trainer, but I could concede for some people that might help. I guess if you count my coaches when I was in high school for sports. But yeah, that's a thing. You can get a fancy gym membership to a really nice gym, and that does help a little bit. We're talking 5-10%. You can buy the fanciest, whatever, protein, and it'll help a little, a few percent. There's been times in my life where I've had a really nice gym. If you've listened, you know I live semi-nomadically. There's also times where I work out literally in the middle of the woods. I will do bench press or push-ups with my wife, or I will literally lift rocks or get resistance bands or go running, sprinting up hillsides, mountains. Would it be better to have a gym? Absolutely. I'm not going to lie, it would be better. Somewhere like LVAC, fantastic gyms. I can get in a little bit better shape with all the proper equipment with a designated preacher curl machine. But I can get 90-95% of the way there with very, very little. And you see that a lot throughout a lot of industries. People just want to buy stuff. They want to buy gear thinking it's going to make them good. You see this a lot. You probably know I do a whole nother podcast called Gunfighter Life. People think that they can just buy the cool gun, the Legion gun or the Wilson Combat or Staccato, and it's going to make them just an amazing shooter. It's not going to, and I don't really follow bodybuilding, but it's not going to do that. Buying that really nice Staccato is not going to make you John Wick. That's a fictitious character. Any more than going to the same gym, whatever, I don't even know. I'm just saying Gold's Gym is going to make you Jay Cutler. It's not the equipment that makes you stand out. It's the effort. It's the pushing. It's the repetition. It's the dedication. The other stuff helps a few degrees. I have won more than a few shooting competitions. If you've listened to the bio, state rifle and pistol champion, regional champion, I know what that takes, and that gear can make a few percentage points difference, and sometimes that's a big difference. Sometimes the difference between first place and third or fourth place, let alone second place in a competition, can be tenths of a second over the course of many, many stages. So yeah, that equipment does make a little bit of a difference. I don't care how much fancy equipment you buy, you're not going to show up to a shooting competition if you've never done one and win. It just doesn't work that way. And likewise, you can get the nicest gym. I was a big fan of LVAC. They're great gyms. They're kind of small regional. Any really, really nice gym, right? You could have a subscription to Muscle Beach. I like working out at Muscle Beach, where a lot of the first bodybuilders, Arnold and stuff, got their start. I have a membership there, but if you never go, if you never put in the sets and the reps, it doesn't matter. Hire the best personal trainer. You could buy the same personal trainer as Jay Cutler, or I don't really follow bodybuilding, right? He's the one that comes to mind. But you could buy his same personal trainer probably. That doesn't mean that you're going to look like him or be as strong as him if you don't actually work out. You could take the same supplements. You could drink the same protein powder. But if you don't do the things, you get what I'm saying. Better off eating cans of tuna and going running and doing push-ups every day, literally with whatever shoes you have, whatever equipment you have, doing that consistently for 6 months, or buying all that stuff and going once a week. You get what I'm saying? It'll make a little bit of difference. If you're putting in time and effort every day, working out once or twice a day, it helps to have a nice gym. I'm not going to lie. I like running on an indoor track when it's 115 outside or when it's freezing cold outside. It is nice. I'm talking a few percentage points difference. Far, far more important that you actually do the stuff and put in the time and the pain. The same with shooting. It's the same. I find myself in Central Florida right now, east of the Mississippi, and it's really hard to do what I would call any kind of practical shooting here. At least it's proven hard so far for me. Hopefully that's a challenge I'll overcome. I can still dry fire every day. Is it as good? No, but I'll be 90-95% as good doing that every day and doing some kind of practical shooting. We're just making excuses and not practicing. You see the correlation there. There's many other things in life you could do that with. Here's another thing I think has a big correlation with the rest of life, and I think maybe sorely missing in maybe, let's call it modern manliness. Some things you're not going to get just because you really, really want them, right? It doesn't work that way. I can't say, I really, really want big muscles. I can turn that desire into action, but until I turn that potential energy into kinetic energy, it doesn't matter. I could sit on my couch and really, really want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I could sit there and, I couldn't because I don't have TV, but somebody could watch Netflix and eat Doritos and really, really want to be in shape. It doesn't matter. Your muscles don't care. You have to do it. You have to put it into action. Potential versus kinetic, in motion, in action. It doesn't matter that you really, really want it. You have to do it. You have to do the things. Nobody's going to hand you that. I do the same thing. I'm trying right now to get this podcast to be a legitimate source of income so I can focus on this and do this. And I've been trying that for a while. And I'm sure it's like that with any small business. Nobody cares that you really, really want the business to succeed or you think it's a really, really good idea. You have to do it. You have to, day after day, put in the effort and the time and do it. You're not going to succeed just because you really, really want it to. You have to make it. You have to do it. So many things like that in life. If you're a young single man, and I'm glad I'm not there, I'm glad I'm happily married. If you're dating, there's some weird circumstance. If you really, really like a girl, she's not going to go out with you unless you ask her. No matter how much you really, really want that girl to like you, unless you're the kind of man that she is interested in, right? She's not going to be interested in you. It doesn't matter how much you really, really want it to work. It doesn't matter how much you love them. One of the lessons I learned as a young man dating, there is no direct correlation in how much you love a girl versus how much they love you back. You could really, really, really love a girl, be madly in love with her, and she could give two craps about you, just to put it bluntly. Or sometimes it's the opposite. A girl really, really likes you, but you're just not into that girl. They're not going to like you just because you really, really, really like them and want it to work out. We talked about the business correlation. You go to the shooting correlation. You don't hit the bullseye just because you really, really want to. That target is honest. That's one of the reasons I like shooting so much. Bring it to something archery. Like, we already talked about shooting quite a bit. That's a thing that I'm big into. But archery, I also like archery. I know one thing about archery. That target could care less how I feel on the other end of that bow. It only matters that I apply the fundamentals and do the things properly and correctly to get the result that is desired. You want to consistently hit the bullseye. A blind man could hit the bullseye once, but to consistently put arrows in the bullseye, that target does not give one iota how much I really, really want to hit the bullseye. I could have 20,000 people in a stadium really, really wanting me to hit that bullseye. That target does not care. No matter how much you might feel like a snowflake or that you really deserve it, that you really want it, that target doesn't care. You have to apply the fundamentals. If you don't apply them correctly and do proper execution of that movement, that arrow is not going to consistently go where you want it to go. Same in life. You may really, really want something, but if you don't do the things, where are you going to be? It's good to really, really want things. I don't want to put that the wrong way. You should have dreams. You should have goals. But what are you doing to fulfill them? If I really, really want big biceps, I have to do bicep curls. Probably have to do isometrics, and I have to do a bunch of different variations. Standing, reverse grip. I have to study what I want, put it into action, and do it repeatedly and get good at it and keep showing up even when I don't want to. You know how often, I guess that'll roll in a good segue to another lesson. You know how often I wake up and I'm like, I really, really want to go to the gym. Sometimes Sometimes I do. Sometimes I have not gotten enough physical activity and I wake up and I'm like, I just want to go work out. Most of the time, not sometimes, not every once in a while, most of the times, I don't want to work out. I'll be honest, I just don't. But I've worked out consistently, again, for over 20 years. My general rule is, if I don't work more than 12 hours a day, I work out twice a day. Whether I want to or not. On days when I work more than 12 hours, I'll settle for once a day. Whether I want to or not. You think after a 10-hour shift, grave shift even, that I want to go work out? No, I don't. But I do it anyway. Your muscles, again, don't care that you don't want to do it. I'm going to give you a free pass. You have to consistently do it if it's the right thing to do to get you to your goals, whether you want to or not. And the majority of the time, I don't feel like it. I'm tired and I got a crappy night's sleep. Do I feel like going and bench pressing twice my body weight? No, I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't feel like it. Doesn't matter how I feel. Doesn't matter how you feel. It matters that you do it, that you do the right thing, whether you feel like it or not. If I'm being honest, I didn't grow up a Christian. I grew up a heathen. Sin will bring you pleasure. One of the big reasons people do it, right? Will give you pleasure. You might feel like doing it. Doesn't matter. You don't do what you feel like as a man. You do the right thing whether you feel like it or not. That verse in the Bible, when I was a child, I thought like a child. When I became a man, I put away childish things. One of the big turning points in my life is I realized that pleasure does not equal happiness. Again, pleasure does not equal happiness. We all have our favorite sins. I'm going to talk about a sin that I, thankfully, by God's grace, never had. But you look at a heroin addict. Somebody that does heroin, no doubt, gets great pleasure from doing that heroin. Will give you a short, fleeting, fleshly pleasure for a time. But in the long run, it leads to destruction. I don't think anybody looks at somebody that has done heroin consistently for a decade or 2 decades and says, that guy looks really happy. That guy looks really full of joy and fulfilled in life. That tree is known by its fruit, right? That's doing what you feel like versus doing the right thing. You don't live your life based on feelings. You do the right thing whether you want to do it or not. As a man, as an alpha male, you do what's right. You do what God's telling you to do, whether you feel like it or not. Talking about things you don't feel like? Jesus says, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. Matthew 5:44. But I say to you, this is Jesus, but I say to you, love your enemies. Bless them that curse you. Do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. How often do you think I feel like doing that? Be honest, probably never ever. But I do it because God says to do it. And I trust, because I've learned the hard way many times, that God is way smarter than me. If He says to do something, and it's, let's put it this way, God is all good, and all good things come from God. If He tells me to do something, it is good for me. Whether I feel like it or not is inconsequential. If I did what I felt like, I'd probably have a TV and Netflix, and I'd probably sit there and eat Doritos and Oreos, and not go to the gym. That might bring pleasure. It's not going to bring joy and happiness and peace. That comes from doing the right thing, whether or not you feel like it. Sometimes you do feel like doing the right thing, and it's great. Sometimes you really don't want to, but you do it anyway because you're a man and you do what's right, not what you feel like. I think that's as good a place as any to start wrapping up the main topic of this show. If you want more about the actual working out and nutrition and stuff, I've done episodes on that. You can look those up in the archives. Appreciate the content. You see value in it. Make sure you like, subscribe. Hit some stars if you're listening on one of the popular apps if they allow it. If you want to contact me, goodshepherdtraining.com. Again, a new format. I'll do the tactical verse of the day because I don't want to leave it out. And then I'll put in the bio. If you want to just end it after the tactical verse, that way you can. I generally throw in a tactical tip at the end for those that want to stay tuned till the end. Tactical verse of the day. Come aside by yourselves to a deserted place and rest a while. We're supposed to walk as Jesus walked. Jesus often withdrew to desert or deserted or wilderness places. Solitude. Rest. Rest is also important for working out. Physically, mentally, for the soul, for the spirit. If Jesus did it, and we're supposed to walk like him, try and find a secluded place. Nature helps. Being out in God's creation, remembering his majesty, getting out of a cube. If you can, even if it's just for a little while. It's good. It does help facilitate joy and peace. The source of that is God, but it does help facilitate that, I do believe. Go for a walk in the woods or wherever you are that's outside, away from the hustle and bustle and the jarred, hurried anxiety of city life. With that, men, I'm going to put in the bio and tactical tip. So, who am I? Who is this person talking to you from across the internet? Why should you listen? First and foremost, I am a Christian, a servant of God, and a follower of Jesus Christ. God has blessed me to do many things in my life, for I could do nothing apart from him. U.S. Marine Corps combat veteran, did a couple of tours in Iraq. As an assaultman after my combat tours, I was an urban warfare instructor for the Marine Corps under Mojave Viper. Also served in the U.S. Army, both full-time and part-time National Guard. Also did several years in law enforcement, LAPD. I worked regular assignments and more specialized assignments. Been a private contractor for a 3-letter government agency. That's all I'll say about that. Been blessed to be a state rifle and pistol champion. And West Coast Regional Rifle Champion, won more shooting competitions with the talent that God's given me than I can actually remember. Was blessed to be the commander of a tactical team in a large metropolitan area. Our primary job, the reason we primarily existed, was to stop active shooters. I got the opportunity to head up and be the commander of that team. I grew up around guns, hunting and shooting and competing at a very early age. Been blessed to hunt all over this beautiful country, from whitetail on the East Coast to mule deer on the West Coast, and bear and elk and all manner of things. I've even been a professional big game hunter and guide. But again, most importantly, I'm a Christian. And I am your host, Michael Milito. I'm going to mention briefly, as a tactical tip, some of my staple foods. Simple, affordable ways to have a nutritious diet. One of my go-tos, the most common, and has been for years, dinner for me is 10 eggs. Eggs are a good source of protein. They're more expensive than they used to be, like 3 times, but they're still one of the most affordable sources of good, healthy protein. You don't need crazy supplements. Eggs. Also, peanut butter. If you can get peanut butter where the ingredient says, ingredients, peanuts, that's the kind of peanut butter you want. You don't need hydrogenated oil and added sugar. In fact, it's the opposite of what you want. If you can get peanut butter with the ingredients peanuts, generally like Walmart, Sprouts, things like that will have a version of that. Again, not overly expensive. A good source of calories, good fat, good protein. I would say go kill something and eat it, a big mammal. But in a lot of places, that's not really financially viable anymore, sadly. I like to hunt for meat, but in a lot of states, you're kind of hunting for sport at this point. If you can, venison, deer, elk, things like that make a really good protein source. Also, don't overlook geese if you're a hunter. Ducks and geese, something like snow geese with a liberal limit. Some places no limit, some places 15 a day. Doesn't take many days like that before you can exceed the weight of a deer. That's really good, high quality protein and fat. Phenomenal. Anyway, some ideas, tactical tip for good nutrition. But again, eggs and peanut butter. That's your tactical tip of the day. Also, a shout out, if anybody lives in Central Florida that has private property, not in city limits, that I could do some, what I would call just basic practical shooting on, drawing from the holster, stuff like that. If you wanted to help the podcast out that way versus Patreon, I will be a good steward of the land. I will pick up my trash, all that stuff. But it would be nice. If I just have to dry fire, it is what it is. It would be nice to have a place, Central Florida area, where I could go shooting. Again, if you want to reach me, goodshepherdtraining.com. Thanks, and have a blessed day. A special announcement. A new patron giveaway for all new patrons in the month of January in the year of our Lord 2023. There will be a giveaway of a bailout bag, a mini bug out bag. If you've listened for a while to different episodes, you'll know I'm big on that concept. That next level up from your EDC. For all new patrons this month, a chance to win the Smith & Wesson M&P sling bag. It's designed to carry a gun and magazines. It's designed to carry a full-size fighting handgun. My wife's full-size M&P fits in there really nicely. 2 spare magazines. You could fit more, but it has specialized pouches for that. And I'm also giving away with it a really nice, good, what I think is a well-balanced fixed blade knife. It's an SOG Bushcraft. It's called the Bushcraft, but it will be a fine tactical fighting knife. It will be a fine Bushcraft knife. It's beefy enough that I would not feel bad putting it on a war belt or on a chest rig, and I wouldn't feel bad if I had to bone out milk with it on the side of a mountain. It's a decent knife. And it's SOG, it's not some junk brand knife you find at a gas station. It's a good knife. The bag and the knife will be raffled off. All new patrons will have a chance to win. If you want to enter this, go to the Patreon page. There should be a link in the show notes. We'll put pictures up. You may have to scroll down a little bit in the feed. A lot of the stuff, most of the stuff in Patreon is for patrons, but I will make this viewable to everybody. So if you want to check out pictures of this, and you want some other stuff, because there's some other free content that I put out for everybody on the Patreon page. Anyway, check it out. Don't worry if you're already a patron. I want to do a special giveaway, and I'm only going to tell the patrons, at least until after I give it away, what that stuff is I'm going to give away for existing patrons. Anyway, check it out. If you want to win the knife, the bag, click on the link and become a patron. I guess I should put in the caveat, you're going to have to be 18 because I'm shipping a knife, and I'm going to limit it to living in the United States.